These items can and can't you bring? Which one should you bring and shouldn't you bring? Learn that and more on this episode of Corbin's Coasters and More. Corbin's Coasters and More. I'm Corbin, and I am here today to tell you how to fly. One of the most important things of going to a theme park is actually getting to the theme park, and I know a lot of you don't fly often or haven't flown at all, so this is some of the essential stuff you should know. So the first thing I'm going to look at is bag size. So you have the full size bag here. This is the checked bag. You cannot carry this on into the cabin. You have to check it, and there are certain things you can do with that one that you can't do with the other bags. These two here are qualified as personal items. So these you can bring onto literally any flight that I know of, and they count as your personal item. They have to be small enough to fit in front of the seat, or under the seat in front of you. This is the carry-on bag. These are pretty standard size. Most of them are exactly the same size to make sure they fit onto the overhead compartment in the plane. These bags fly with you in the cabin, but are hard to access during the flight and are sometimes an upcharge. And then the good old fanny pack. I'll tell you what this is good for, as well as your shopping bag. Some of you may be wondering too, flying with pets. There are airlines that allow pets and airlines that don't. I'll leave a list of the airlines I know of that do allow pets, but pets almost always cost extra, and it's not just a little extra. So if you have a way to leave your pet at home, leave them at home. I have never personally flown with a pet, but yeah, let's get this one out of here. So why wouldn't you just bring all of these bags? Well, the cost. For one, except for Southwest, every single carrier is going to charge you for this kind of bag, your checked bag, and it's usually around $40 or $50 per bag. Now, the good thing about these is you can bring on almost anything, including unloaded weapons, any size of liquids, alcohol, things that you can't bring on your regular bag. Some of the only excluded items are like rechargeable battery items like vapes and loaded guns. So you can bring almost anything, but it does cost extra. Like I said, unless you fly Southwest, then you get 2 checked bags for free. Now, I usually fly Frontier and Spirit and Allegiant, all these discount airlines, and the reason is they're a lot cheaper. So because they're cheaper, you get less. These discount airlines, you get 1 personal item included, and if you want to carry on, that's extra. Now, carry-ons are usually free on your more premier, like American, United, Southwest, Delta. They include a free carry-on, as far as I know still, unless things have changed since the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure they still include it. But literally every airplane ticket in America is going to include a personal item. Now the catch, like I said, this has to fit under the seat in front of you, so it has to be pretty small. So if you bring something like this, it can't be stuffed full. If you bring something around this size, you're fine, you can fill it up. Now, and a purse does count as a personal item, so you can't bring a purse and this. But the good thing is, you can also bring a shopping bag. You can fill up your shopping bag. Now, technically, it's supposed to be bought in the airport. So go buy a candy bar or a soda at the airport, put this bag inside of that one. No one will say anything. Probably no one will say anything with your generic shopping bag, but it's possible. And then the fanny pack is on your person. Anything on your person flies as long as it's something legal to fly. So this, as long as it's around your waist, will not count as an extra item, especially if you cover it up with your shirt. No one's going to say anything. So really, when you get a personal item, you get 1, 2, 3 bags instead of just 1. I'm going to tell you to save you a lot of money in the long run. Don't spoil yourself and go with one of the upper airlines to start with. Don't go with American. Don't go with United. If you can, go with one of the cheaper airlines, because if you start that way, you'll be used to it and you won't care. So let's get rid of this. Pretty much forever. Now, if you're going on a long trip, yeah, I suggest it. But for a 2 or 3 day trip, even a 4 day trip, You can fit a lot more than you think into these bags. Let's see how much we can fit. But before we do that, I'm going to show you what you can and can't bring. If you don't automatically know, then you definitely need this video. Now, if you're going with multiple people, definitely each person can have this array. So at even more, you can fit more stuff. So I'm going to start with things you definitely cannot bring, which is pretty much anything in this picture. No weapons. Nothing that can be construed as a weapon. No spreadables, including spreadable cheeses. Candles are a wax, so they might count that as a spreadable. I would just suggest they would and move on. Nothing, no liquids, creams. This is 8.6 ounces. All your liquids have to be 3.4 ounces or under each. So no full-size bottles of shampoo, no full-size soap, no bottles of wine. If it's open or unopened, you still can't bring it. Can't bring your mouthwash, even though you might say it's medical. And the exception there would be if it is prescribed. Prescriptions, liquid or not, can fly. But if it's a non-liquid medical, or if it is a liquid, non-prescribed medicine, you still can't bring it. So if you have a prescription, you're good, regardless of the size. No prescription, can't fly. So nothing in this picture can fly as a carry-on or a personal item. Any of this would have to go in your checked bag, which costs extra. So, what can fly? You say, I can't live without shampoo. I can't live without my mouthwash. Well, you might have seen these at the store, the travel size versions of things. So you can get these little versions, say a small deodorant or a small shampoo. I mean, I collect these from hotels. The ones I like, bring them on your next trip. You can get these little miniature sunscreens. Razors can fly. Definitely bring one. Otherwise, you'll miss it, or you'll have to use one of the cheap 50-cent ones the hotel will give you. And my other thing that you should really buy, if you're going to fly more than once, is these things. These are airplane size, 3.4 ounces exactly. And they get some high quality ones. Don't go to the Dollar Tree. Go to TJ Maxx, or these were from Eddie Bauer actually. These were, I think, $12.99. But they'll last you forever. They have a good squeeze on them. They're washable. And you can reuse them as many times as you want. In the background here are a couple things that you can bring, but they're a pain to bring. So you can bring alcohol minis. A lot of people don't know that. Now, you cannot legally drink them on the plane. It's against FAA regulations. You can be arrested for it. So I don't suggest drinking it on the plane, but you can bring almost as many minis as you want. I'll show you how much you can bring. And then cards. Cards come up as contraband every time you go through. You got to go through the X-ray, and every time it comes up as a secondary check. So bring your cards, but if you do, make sure to get to the airport that full 2 hours early, because otherwise they are going to pull it for a secondary check almost always. Brings me to the next point, which is you should be to your flight 2 hours early if you're checking a bag. If you're not checking a bag, an hour to an hour and a half is usually okay, but kind of know your airport. Like in Orlando, you do have to be 2 full hours early because it's super busy, or O'Hare or Philadelphia. But if you live in, say, Greensboro or Sanford or, Lubbock, you're probably fine getting there an hour to an hour 15 early. So the smaller airports, you don't need as much time as the bigger airports, which makes sense. One other item you shouldn't bring if you're in a hurry is salt. That's another item, just like the cards. It comes up as they can't see anything inside it, so they're going to have to go through it and do a drug test on it. So if you're in a hurry, don't bring it. But it is allowed in any size. Something else allowed that a lot of people don't know is any of this. Food items. It can be open, sealed, fresh, perishable, non-perishable, doesn't matter. The little liquid coffee mates, those are fine because they're less than 3.4 ounces. Food items are fine as long as they are not spreadable. And I don't recommend cheese because it can be seen as spreadable, or it can be seen as something that's easy to hide stuff in. But anything hard like this, any snack, and definitely if you have kids, bring some snacks, because once you're on the plane, they're expensive to buy. You know, a piece of string cheese, if they sell, it's probably $2 or $3. Bag of Chex Mix is $4 or $5 in the airport or on the plane. Now, if you go on one of the upper airlines like United, Southwest, etc., you do get a free little bag of pretzels or something like that during your flight. But if you're going on the cheap airlines, that doesn't come with it. So something else you should definitely bring with you, though, is your essentials. So yes, I have pads and hairbands in there. There's been emergencies before. Headphones. Definitely bring your headphones if you're on the plane, especially if it's more than an hour flight. And make sure they're charged up before you go. There's not always places to charge at the airport, even if you get there early. Bring something to read or a puzzle book. Make sure to bring your chargers and the charging outlet. Not all hotels have USB ports still. So make sure you have this. Even if they do, they're usually not good. So make sure you have a good charging port and have your cords. And I found these little cord organizers at the Dollar Tree, $1 a piece, and they are great. I just found them, and you can stack them on top of each other. Nothing gets tangled. For $1, you can't beat it. Even to use around the house, it's a good deal. And, of course, make sure you have an ID. It does not have to be a passport if you're going within country. But you need a passport or an ID, something with your face on it that is, it can't be a student ID. It has to be something state or federally issued. And there are ways, if you lose one on your way back, there are ways for them to let you through, but it's really a pain. So make sure you have that, and make sure you have your boarding pass, which you should get beforehand. Now, one thing you don't know if you don't fly is you can actually check in 24 hours in advance to your flight. And it's good to, because most airlines now charge you for seat selection, and you almost always get a better seat selection, or your seats are all together. The earlier you book, the better chance you have of that. If you don't pay for your seat selection, yeah, you might be separated from your party during the flight. So if you have a kid, it's probably worth paying the extra $15 or $20 a person. But as long as you are 24 hours in advance, set an alarm, you'll get an email anyway, and be one of the first to check in, and that'll really help you. So, the one other thing is laptops. Anything bigger than a tablet, at almost all securities, it's different in every airport, but you have to take it out and put it on a separate bin to go through the x-ray. So make sure if you bring a laptop or a tablet or anything, a video game console, anything larger than a phone, make sure you have it very accessible on top of your bag, because you're going to have to get that out, and you don't want to hold up the line, and you want to get through the security process as quickly as possible. And also, you see on top of it, don't forget your chargers. That is one of the things you forget more often than anything, is chargers. So, these are things you can bring. Things you need to bring that you might forget. And these are contraband. You cannot bring any of these unless it's in a checked bag. But all this other stuff can go in a personal item or in a carry-on. So there's one other rule. With all these little liquids, they all have to fit in a gallon Ziploc bag, which is why this is here. All this will fit. With room to go. So soap I would put in there too. So all that fits easily. Now, if you have this many liquids, that's another thing you can probably expect to be stopped for a secondary inspection, because that's not really normal. But you can do it. As long as the rule says you can do it, you can do it. So we're going to see how much we can get in one person's personal items without having to pay for a bag. It's going to be a tight fit, but I told you I could fit 4 days worth in here. We're going to fit 4 days worth in here. Like I said, we're going to fit 4 full days in here, and we're going to make sure to get all the essentials too. And the essentials, we're going to make sure there's something we can easily access. as you can see, other than Cheerios, and I did not bring the laptop, everything that was on this table that can go, went. And when you get to the airport, buy something at the bookstore, which the bookstore sells everything from candy to soda, water. Might cost you $3, but you'll have an extra soda, and you'll have something to put this in to kind of hide it. This goes on your body. This goes under the seat in front of you, which, if you don't want it under the seat in front of you, put it in the overhead compartment beside you. I mean, no one's really going to argue with you. Now, you can't put both above, but you could put one above. But if you need something out of this, like I have the magazine, and you don't need the legroom, go ahead and put it under your seat. Now, there are a couple other things that I want you to know about flying before you go. So, here are a couple more tips. The best way to show you how much legroom you have, this is about it on any Frontier, Spirit, Allegiant, any of the discount airlines. You might get an extra 3 inches on the premium airlines, but really, for an extra $100 a ticket, not worth it. Now, if you don't have your personal item, if you put this above in the overhead bin, as long as they allow it, then you have plenty of room to stretch out a little bit. I'm 5'11", and it's not comfortable, but especially on a 2-hour flight, you're fine. On a 4-hour flight, it gets really uncomfortable. Yeah, it's a pretty narrow area, and if you have your bag underneath, this is literally the amount of room you have. I'm not that big of a person, so you have to get used to that. Flying does kind of suck in a lot of ways, including the restrictions on what you can bring, but that is part of the deal. Another thing I'd like to mention is getting to the airport. A lot of people think Ubering is the cheapest way, unless you live really close or you're going somewhere for a long time. It's really not. So at the Orlando airport, it's $10 a day for the economy parking, and it has a free bus that takes you back and forth to the lot. There's also places like Wally Park and Fly and Go where it's like $8 a day, and they actually have better shuttles than the airport does here. And most cities have these kind of discount parking options. So if you're going for 4 days, you're looking at around $40 of parking. Most people, an Uber ride is going to be at least $20 each way. And then you're counting on there actually being Uber availability, no surge rates. So I always recommend not Ubering to the airport. Just my opinion. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. There really is a lot to flying that a lot of people don't know, and these are just what I hear the most often. I drive Uber, I'm in theme parks all the time, I have family members that don't travel much, and these are kind of all the frequently said comments and frequently asked questions about flying and traveling, especially what not to bring. And so many people think you can't bring food. You absolutely can. Food you can bring as long as it's not spreadable. And drinks you can bring as long as they're in 3.4 ounce or smaller, which means alcohol minis are fine. But again, make sure to remember the essentials. Make sure to remember you can bring more than one bag for free. And make sure to remember too, this check bag, it might be nice to have, but is it really worth $40 each way, $80 round trip? Yeah. And the one other thing that I forgot. Check bags have weight limits of either 40 or 50 pounds. Carry-ons and personal items, no weight limit. So as long as you can pick it up, you can bring it on. So I hope this helps you get to your theme parks, get to the bucket list you want to, get out to Cedar Point, get out to Six Flags Magic Mountain, get out to Orlando and see the theme parks here. And flying for a lot of you is the only way to get down here. So it's not that bad. For most of the country, it's 2 or 3 or less hour flight. Unless you live in California, then it's about 4. So get on down here, get out to California, see all these cool theme parks that you read about, see about, and dream about. You can go too. But anyway, I hope you liked this video. Share it with anyone you know that doesn't travel much, or maybe someone that travels a lot can learn something. And hope you get to go everywhere you want. Thanks for watching Corbin's Coasters and More.